Construction budget blowouts don't come out of nowhere. In this video, we'll unpack the real causes of budget blowouts and what you can do about them with a construction professional.
Usually there's a big push to get the number to marry up to the bankable number. So often we'll value engineer the project through that procurement phase to get it to the number that it needs to be.
Squashing it down.
Squashing everything down to get it to a number that's going to make it fundable.
Yeah.
And then once the finance is in place, often those are reversed back out.
What stage of design are they receiving the design then?
Depending on the type of contract, so design and build, you'll probably get that at the end of developed design or midway through developed.
So they only really have a small chance to kind of own the design from that point onwards.
Yeah, a small. We always say that the influencing factors are at the very front end of design. That's the prelim design. That's when the key decisions are made. You're locked in the facade, the structure, the systems you're going to use, and going through the detailed design. That's more the nuance and coordination. So you have little ability. There's the ability, but it's not cost effective to start changing wholesale systems. You're kind of locked in for the project.
Totally. Yeah, there's some great charts that show that, like the ability to influence the total cost of the project is highest right at the beginning, and then basically diminishes to almost zero as the project continues.
Yeah. And you're running with all your consultants at a much higher cash flow, so stopping and starting is not so easy.
So, and then once you complete the procurement phase and you start like actually tracking the costs. So you guys were using spreadsheets before, kind of using Mastt now. How do you think people will perform that kind of cost control function? Like once costs start needing to be, tracked and controlled.
Yep.
How do they actually do that?
So how it works and how we typically do is we'll either do an instruction to a contractor as in to make a change, and we'll flag that very high level as do we anticipate there to be a cost or not, or is there entitlement to a cost or not. Then it's up to them to put the claim in, and there's a danger of that lag. That can be a month or more before you actually understand that true price, because they're still waiting to go to the subcontractor, or they can't get a price because they haven't engaged in the market. In that interim period, we do rely on the client side QS to put budgets against those instructions. And then we sort of wait for the contractor's claim and try and get that alignment between expectation versus what they're putting forward.
Yep.
And then for us, the Mastt allows us to have like a single source of truth, as in like all the costs and instructions are one centralized location, including payment claims. And because it's not an Excel file, it can't be manipulated to make a number. It kind of pulls through the true cost. The danger and what we see is the lag between the instruction and the forecast cost and the contractor's claim being received, which can be months, and therefore decisions are made to commit or instruct costs without knowing the true extent.
Yeah, without knowing what the real price is.
Yeah, real price is. So I think at Mastt, you've got that functionality to sort of pre-assign budgets to something that hasn't yet been picked up by the QS or the contractor.
Yep. So you're using Mastt to actually almost not predict, forecast the costs and develop like an accurate final forecast cost.
Yeah, it's putting a budget to it, not putting a budget to an instruction or a change.
Yep. And if that price comes back or that change comes back and it's unfunded, will there be some type of transfer of the contingency? Are you guys holding all of your risks that are, they're quantified risk, costed risks in the contingency, like a risk-based build-up of contingency, and then actually transferring out of that into the construction budgets to cover off on these costs?
Yes, foreseeable costs though. And costs that are likely to transpire, but it's the higher level risks that have a lower level of eventuating, but have a much higher impact should they occur. They're the ones that often are priced, because if you price them all, the project wouldn't stack up.
And the kind of breakup of that, like we've got these standard categories in Mastt that are like client changes, contamination, legal. What's the kind of big category, in your opinion, that most of the kind of blowouts are coming from?
Blowouts typically client instructions, scope adjustments, and unforeseeable sort of ground
conditions.
conditions. Yep. Yeah, well, there's been due diligence, but it's different. That's usually where we see change. New Zealand and Auckland in particular, we've got so many, the ground conditions vary site by site. You can't run a general rule of thumb across the Auckland. There is a lot of work prior to understand that, but there's no general rule of thumb. Every site's quite specific.
So then we've got kind of all these commitments made against the budget, all these changes. So what do you do when these costs start to trend over budget?
We can look for value engineering opportunities.
In the uncommitted part?
What's that?
In the unconstructed parts of the project?
Uncommitted, unconstructed part. So substituting products out, changing specification. Usually you might get 5% at max out of a project because it's got to be uncommitted, unordered, all fit with the brief of the project and the design intent. And then you still have the cost of design and recompliance. Usually those smarts can come from the subcontractor level.
Yeah.
They put forward alternatives. And usually in the procurement phase, we ask them to sort of think about and flush out those ideas. So we've sort of got them as a shopping list. Aside from that, I mean, the only big saving will be scope change. That's when you can go and do major impact change. But again, design and consent and time cost associated with that.
Or you delete scope, You
can pull from other budgets, but then that usually doesn't work.
Yeah, the clients don't like giving extra budget or pulling from other budgets very often.
No, they don't like that at all. There's not too many shortcuts to, you can obviously pull the handbrake on client and structure changes, but there's not too many plan Bs once you're fully going.
Yep.
Without affecting the actual project itself.
Yep.
So usually we just try and, with contractor or with clients, as soon as you open the door for a change, or as soon as you make a change, you sort of open the door.
Yeah.
And you sort of invite claims. So you need to try and reduce those.
Yep.
I was just saying, and then a lot of cost is also just looking at trends that we've had in the past and preempting where cost is going to come from. And some of that cost is time, associated with time risk if a project does go longer. So that's just managing the expectations of your design consultants and anyone that needs to sort of make decisions, giving them the deadlines that are required to not have that commercial impact on the project. So
that's a key value add then for you guys as the project manager, is having all of the experience, knowing what may come up, how much it might cost, and being able to almost predict or preempt that for the client. Yep. So like a Colliers managed project or an Andrew managed project would be managed much tighter to budget or under budget because you've been on top of all the risks early, you've been value engineering early, controlling the design early, and then executing a high quality project and all the scope.
Yep.
Basically within budget.
Yeah, and the contractors are fairly good in terms of also understanding the nuances about everyone aiming as one team. So they're actually, I'd say they're pretty good over here in terms of putting forward options and working together as a team to mitigate those risks.
All right. So that's good. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to know more about construction and get all the professional tips, tricks, and AI advice from real construction project managers, follow this channel for more insights.